Hey guys, how's it going? And today I'm bringing you gameplay from my Friedrich, the tier 9 German battleship. And we are in basically a tier 9 heavy game, and it's going to be quite an interesting game. Now, this ship, as I have it configured in this game, does not have the upgraded guns and does not have the upgraded engine or the range. So basically I'm running with the B hull with the, I believe they're 406mm guns, and as you can see my range isn't that great, and neither is my maneuverability in that case either. But I do have the B hull, so I do have the maximum amount of HP that I can possibly get on the ship without having survivability expert. Now I started this replay off right where we started to make contact, because that's when I start kind of hatching my plan as to where I want to go. As you can see, most of the team's starting to group around A. They're kind of forming up in the middle, but they're mostly pushing towards the A cap, as the enemy team has already taken the B cap with a destroyer. Now you can see this Arpagaro kind of pushing through the middle. I just lobbed some shells at the enemy Friedrich and did about 5,000 damage. But you can see this Arpagaro coming through the middle as he was just shelled to death by shelled out of the vicinity by my friendly team. And the issue for him is he also came around that broadside, and I don't think he realized that I had a decent firing angle at him, even though he fired at me first. And that's not going to end well for him. 27,000 damage, 2 citadels for the first blood of the game. Now, that's an Iowa off to my left that I'm going to have to do a little bit of maneuvering to avoid so that we don't get in each other's way. So, not even 4 minutes in and I've done 32,000 damage. I wouldn't say that's too bad for what they call the underrated guns on this ship. Now, I do have the spec for secondaries like my Bismarck was. I have it set for manual secondaries, and basically all the skills and equipment that boost my secondaries to the maximum range and efficiency that I can possibly get. So this Fubuki is dancing around just outside my secondary range, but he's soon going to learn that when he strays inside it, that my ship will slowly start picking away at his health bar. And for now, I'm kind of worried about this Izumo, because he might be able to penetrate me with the angle that I'm showing. So I'm kind of waiting for him to get out of the area, rolling 3,000 through his deck, but it's really not doing too much. I'm kind of waiting for him to push towards A, where I actually think he's going to go. I don't believe he'd actually turn out to B, since there really isn't anybody over here for him to shoot at. Especially since with his gun angle, it seems like he's definitely focusing over there. But if he does make a hard turn, that means he does have to turn broadside and show me a decent angle where I can get some decent shots at him. Of course, that one not being one, where I only took out the main turret of one of his guns for a temporary duration of time. Looks like the enemy team is putting up quite a bit of a fight for the A cap. And we do have a destroyer in the Iowa over here, though the Iowa does look like he's more interested in shooting at the ships contesting the A cap. So that's going to leave me in a destroyer for both the B and the C cap against, I believe it's 2 cruisers and that Fubuki. Now that Fubuki just trade, ooh, that poor Baltimore. He was angled, but I still citadeled him through his bow and did about 20,000 damage to him. So very unlucky for him. As I was saying, the Fubuki has now strayed into my secondary range, and my secondaries are opening up to absolutely rip into his ship. And there's a Fiji, the British tier 7 cruiser. Secondary is still opening up on that Fubuki as our friendly destroyer starts tearing into him. But that Fubuki does have backup, and we can't denounce the use of that backup in this game. Especially since all that is a lone Fletcher. It does take a Fletcher a little while to kill another destroyer due to the low DPM on its guns. Or I wouldn't say low DPM, I would say low alpha damage. It takes him quite a few salvos, and that means he's going to be spotted for a while. And especially with 2 cruisers and a carrier backing him up, as I roll 20,000 into the Fiji, Ooh, that's not gonna feel good, but he can heal it up. As I was saying, with 2 cruisers backing him up, that Fletcher really isn't gonna live too long as the Baltimore burns him to death. So now that leaves me in a battleship that doesn't do well against torpedoes, against a Fubuki and 2 cruisers. Of course, I do have sonar, which spots torpedoes further out than normal, and I did see those torpedoes coming from a long way away. So I slowed down to avoid those. The Fiji is within torpedo range, since I believe he has 8-kilometer torps. Sadly, my ship will not slow down in time to avoid these torpedoes. I turn in a little bit to try to take as few as I can, end up taking 2, and as you can see, those did massive amounts of damage to me. I immediately repair the flooding and get my ship back up to speed. And now I am being spotted by the ships over by A as their Fubuki starts to cap our Bravo point. But he just got spotted by me yet again, and I am fairly prone to shooting at destroyers with my main batteries if I can. So rolled 3,000 into his side as my secondaries once again start opening up on his ship. And if you think about it, most of these hits, when they do hit, do a fairly decent amount of damage. They'll do maybe 100 to 300 damage per hit, and it adds up quite fast. As you can see, he's gone from about 4,000 to health to 2,000 so far, as my focus turns to the Baltimore to try to get him to stop lighting me on fire. I roll 8,000 through the back of his ship. He is not having a good day fighting me over here. So now I'm basically alone on this flank against these 3 ships, and despite that only being a tier 7, the Fiji is actually quite a decent ship for, pestering me in these situations. With me being so worried about that Baltimore and the Fubuki, I'm going to be angling a lot and turning and showing my broadside, and that's going to leave a lot of instances where his little AP rounds can get into my armor and absolutely wreck me. So they all stealthed. I'm not detected. As I say that, I am detected again. So I do believe that Fubuki has come out in front of me. Does look like our carrier is sending planes this way though, which will be nice so that he can spot maybe the Fubuki for me so I can knock it out, or any of the cruisers that I could possibly get shots on. Fiji does not have the anti-aircraft consumable, so it would be a decent idea for him to attack that, even though the Fiji can take down a couple of planes as he does it. Hopefully though, if he does decide to attack the Fiji, the Baltimore's not in range to pop that defensive fire cooldown or help with the anti-aircraft, especially since those are only tier 7 planes. And just as I popped my sonar again, there's some torpedoes in the water heading for my location. That Fubuki is somewhere in front of me, and there he is. He's right behind the island. Knowing Japanese destroyers, he's looking for torpedo runs or looking for me to come straight around the island and just wander right into a path of his torpedoes. But my sonar did spot him too, so I easily avoided that conflict. Even though his 700 health, in a rare chance I might have shot him before he got torpedoes off, but I highly doubt it. Ooh, that was a bad shot on that Baltimore, skipping across his deck for only 3,000 damage. That probably should have killed him, to be perfectly honest. Now that Fiji's slowing down and popping smoke, so those shells will not hit him, sadly. And that's going to be pretty bad for me, because now they're all stealthed up again, and I can't see anything, and I'm still detected. Other than that Baltimore who just decided to wander out. There's the torpedoes from the Fubuki. The question is, where is the Fubuki? He is the biggest threat to me right now. These cruisers can burn me down and they can do decent amounts of damage to me, but that Fubuki is the main threat. That Baltimore's really low. If he stays on the course he is on, those shells should hit and take him out. And there it is, taking out the last 900 of his health. So 10 minutes in, 117,000 damage done so far. Pretty good game so far. Our team has started to pull it back. They finally captured A, and we still hold on to B. The teams are about even though. They have a cruiser. No, they have a destroyer over us. Even though that destroyer is low health, that can really change the outcome of the game depending on if our carrier dies or not. Which I'm sure, based on how far up we are pushed to A, that probably won't happen. But you never know. So the question is, where is that Fubuki? He is the biggest threat to me right now since my ship has no torpedo protection. Or, I shouldn't say no, but German battleships really don't have much for torpedo protection. And there's the Fubuki. He has wandered in front of me at the wrong moment. Fired my main batteries and snag him with an overpen, sinking him. And looks like he got some torpedoes off, so I'm going to maneuver to avoid those and make sure he doesn't get any lasting damage after he dies. So, that is the biggest threat to my ship taken care of. Now, the second biggest threat would be a hard choice between that Fiji and the Iowa. Now, I say that because the Iowa's a Tier 9 battleship also. It's the American Tier 9, and it's fairly good at penetrating Friedrichs. It's fairly good at penetrating German armor from the front. So I do need to be careful about my angling when I go up against that. Now when I say the Fiji is a close contender for that, despite it being a Tier 7 cruiser, once again it's because he has torpedoes. He has 8-kilometer torpedoes that I could easily drive into if he knows what he's doing, or if he lets me get close enough to where he can get them off without me being able to maneuver. He could really, wreck my game. So I need to be very careful about the distance that I keep with him and the course that I take to make sure I maneuver to avoid any torpedoes that could possibly be fired back to slow me down. Now that Iowa has ignored me, which is not good for him since he also ignored me to the point where he has gone broadside to me. And yeah, there's a Citadel in the side for him. 12,000 damage, going right through the side of his ship, and it looks like he is none the wiser. So I'm not entirely sure why he hasn't reacted to that, since there's another Tier 9 battleship on his flank, and I am the only battleship remaining on my team. Torpedoes zipping by him, looks like he dodged those and is starting to speed up, but all my batteries are reloaded. Will I Citadel him? No, I'm only getting 11,000 out of that. I should have aimed a little bit further up since he was speeding up. I didn't calculate for him actually accelerating, and I ended up hitting his stern. But my secondaries are opening up on him now. I'm angling against the Fiji since it's the one firing armor piercing at me, and the Iowa isn't even paying attention to me. But guns once again are reloaded. That's the nice thing about the 406s is they have that fast reload, and I easily take out the rest of his health bar as he tries to turn to avoid the Atago's torps. Now, as I said, I am the last battleship on my team. The Amagi that was pushing at A has died. But it looks like their Lexington, which is a large threat to me with his torpedo and dive bombers, looks like he has basically been whittled down by our carriers, and it looks like there is a Hipper over there that is picking away at his health. So that's going to leave me in the clear for a little bit, at least from attacks from him, which probably could kill me if he played it out right. Probably the biggest threats well, any ship right now is a big threat to me based on the health that I'm on. That Kutuzov could really kite my ship if he wanted to, and light me on fire over and over and basically just wreck me. But right now that Fiji is a huge threat. He is at 6 kilometers, which is well within torp range for him. If he goes broadside to me and drops torps, he can really... Ooh, there's his broadside. If he drops torps, he could really mess me up right now, unless I maneuver carefully to avoid them, especially since my guns aren't really doing anything right now. They're basically overpenning because he's such a lightly armored cruiser. It's going straight through the sides of his ship, out the other, and just splashing in the water. But of course my secondaries are opening up on him and slowly picking down his health bar. It looks like he's trying to regenerate a little bit, but he is getting pushed on by an Atago class cruiser whose high explosive rounds can penetrate him because he has 203s against a light cruiser's armor. And there goes that little light cruiser. Now that Lexington at this range is probably my biggest threat since the Kutuzov is adjusting his course. I can't really get a decent shot at him. So now I'm launching shells at the Lexington, but the Lexington was slower than I thought, and German accuracy is not helping me today, and he has managed to evade all of my shots as the Kutuzov starts to maneuver his way closer as he tries to brawl the Atago. So it's down to me and Atago and our friendly carrier, which I believe is a Lexington, against a Lexington and Mikhail Kutuzov. Those shots shouldn't miss. Hopefully they won't. Come on, RNG. Yes, there it is. A Kraken as I sink the enemy carrier. Now we just have to take out this Kutuzov and secure our victory. But he has just won himself a Confederate and a Witherer award. So he knows what he's doing. And he just killed an Artago. So he knows what he's doing, so I have to play this very carefully to avoid being burned straight to the ground. So I'm going to continue advancing on him since he is a light cruiser. But I do have to be careful because he too has 8-kilometer torps. And he has 5 of them per side of his ship compared to the Fiji's 3. And those were not the hits I wanted to see. I need to see citadels against this guy. I need to take him out as fast as I can so that he can't get those torpedoes into play. And I'm just entering the 8-kilometer range. My secondaries are opening up. I'm turning broadside as my guns are loading to try to get a better picture on him. There's my my Confederate award. I didn't notice hearing the Kraken from killing that Atago. But friendly carrier bombs him out. My secondaries finally finish him off for the close quarters award. Yeah, I'd say that was a pretty damn good game for being a lone ship holding the line at Bravo. Very good job to that enemy Kutuzov. It looks like he really tried to carry that game. He basically earned the same, probably about the same amount of ribbons as I did, as he got the Witherer instead of the close quarters expert, but we both earned a Confederate and a Kraken Unleashed. But getting into the first of the after battle reports shows that I did 175,000 damage that game, which for the 406s isn't that bad in my opinion, since everybody usually praises the 420s on this ship. But I think a large amount of that did come from the 406mm, since the 5 Citadel hits definitely contributed heavily to the amount of damage that I did to the 6 ships that I sank. But you have to give a good chunk of that to the secondaries, who earned 127 hits over the course of that battle. Not a huge amount. I have earned almost 300 before, but definitely a good chunk of damage probably was delivered via them and the fires that they set. Going into the awards that I got: Close Quarters Expert for the kill on Mikhail Kutuzov, First Blood for the Haguro, Dreadnought for the damage being tanked, Kraken, Devastating Strike, and Confederate, rounding out the list of rewards that I earned during the course of that battle. Now into the team list shows me on top with over 2,000 base experience, 2,500 to be exact, which is a huge amount in my opinion. And definitely topping out the team list on my side with the Atago that was there at the end coming in second. I can't really say close second because it is a fair difference there. But he did come in second with 1,600. But if you want to look over on the enemy's side to that Mikhail Kutuzov on top that I was dueling at the end, he outscored everybody on my team except for me. He really put in the work to try to carry his team to victory, and sadly it didn't work out for him in the end. But extremely good job to him for outscoring all of my team. It's nothing against my team, they all did very well, but he just did an exceptional job on his side of the battle. And finally onto the damage screen to just point out how much the underrated 406s actually did during this battle. Out of the 75,000 damage, 146 did come from those 406mm main batteries. I think those are a very underrated gun on these high-tier German battleships, as a lot of people look for the 420s for that overmatch effect, and they don't think about how much they're going to overpen something like a light cruiser. But I do agree that the 420s are kind of a better gun in terms of their alpha and how much damage you're actually going to output over the course of the battle. But the short reload of the 406s is definitely nothing to laugh at. But onto secondary batteries shows that 23,000 of my damage was actually done by those little buggers, and I'd say that's a fair chunk. along with the 6,000 that was set by fire, shows it was a very efficient, or they're a very efficient build for this ship, and they can definitely put in their damage if you get them within range, which means you have to actually stop sniping and get in the battle. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this. Good luck in your games out there, whether you're grinding up the German battleships or whatever line you're going up. Hopefully I have done something that'll help you a little bit in your grind, teach you something about how I play these ships. Anyway, good luck, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.